Yo! Welcome back to One More Mana. My name is Derek, and today we're getting back into another deck tech. This has been a deck I've been really excited about for a little while now. I just haven't really found a spot to fit it in yet. But it's a deck I've recently put together in paper, been playing it a lot, and it is my Temmet Vizier of Noctamoon deck. Before we get started, this deck is kind of awesome and super fun. I know y'all are going to want to buy some of the cards in here, so when you do, please use our affiliate link with TCG Player down in the description below. TCG Player is amazing. You're going to be able to find all the cards you want on there. Any cards you buy with that link are going to help support the channel, help us make more and even better content. We really do appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. Now, a little about me. I think I mentioned this before. In decks I play in person, I have tried for years to get a deck with white in it that I would play, and I couldn't do it. White is just, it's against everything I like in Magic, and I had so many just cool white cards that I could not find a deck for. Temmet's a card that basically ever since it got spoiled, I was intrigued by it. It didn't seem super strong, but it's just an interesting effect. But without further ado, Temmet he's Azorius, but he doesn't play like the typical control-y Azorius commander. Temmet says at the beginning of your combat on each turn, you can give target creature token you control +1/+1 and unblockable. And it's that in and of itself is basically what you're trying to do. You're trying to get tokens, but unlike most token decks, you want big, scary tokens so you can give it a little buff and unblockable. But also with Temmet, you also have the ability to embalm it. So you can bring itself back as a token, which can then make itself unblockable with +1. Now, this doesn't work with commander damage. The token does not count as the commander itself, so you're not going to want to go the typical Voltron route with it. But that unblockability is just so interesting. There's so many directions to go with it. It also lets you get around commander tax for the most part, because with Temmet, it only costs 2 mana. It's the 5 to embalm, and then essentially you're going, 2, then 5, then you can play it with commander tax for 4, and then it only costs 5 again. Essentially, it takes a while for commander tax to build up with Temmet, which is awesome because in Azorius, you don't have a ton of ways to ramp. So that's automatically really cool. Really, the way this deck works is you want to go ahead and make clone token copies of all of the coolest stuff everywhere on the board. Now, we got a few things in here. They're going to make clone tokens of our own stuff. But really what we're interested in is making token copies of other people's creatures. And essentially, someone plays a big, scary threat. We want to take that, make a token copy of it, and then hit people for unblockable damage. There's a whole bunch of cool effects that go with this, a lot of value things that care about combat damage. We're going to get into all this as we go. But all in all, it's a very casual, but very fun deck. And it just plays differently. I love token decks, and this plays so much different from any token deck I've really had the chance to play, because you don't want to go wide. You want to go big and create a big, scary token. With the creatures, you want to take advantage of as many of the embalm and internalize cards as you can. Stuff like Adorned Pouncer is great to eternalize and have a 4/4 double striker who can get buffed and unblockable. It's pretty good. It's not bad at all, especially with some combat damage effects that we might have. That double strike can come in handy. Angel of Sanctions is a great example of one of these cards. Vizier of Many Faces, really as many of these cards as you can fit in there, go ahead and put in, because you get value from them when you play them, but then being able to embalm or eternalize them and bring them back and then give them unblockability, buff them, they're just very good value creatures to have, and it's the perfect deck for those type of cards. Now, outside of those, there's a few creatures that I think just do everything we want with getting big, scary tokens. Now, the first one, and this is kind of just a shoe-in for this deck, it's not really a surprise, is going to be Fairy Artisans. Fairy Artisans is awesome in this deck, because you essentially just get everyone's ETB triggers, obviously, but it just creates so much fun, because whatever that last creature that's going to be played before your turn, you're going to be able to give that unblockable and swing at somebody, and it's so cool. Fairy Artisans always creates a fun board state, because everyone's kind of looking like, okay, what's the last thing we're going to play to give him a token of that before it's his turn? You don't want to leave him with something crazy, and it takes on a whole other effect in this deck, because you're going to be able to give it unblockable. So you get some really cool creatures, and just the value of Fairy Artisans for 4 mana, it's a must-have in this deck. Now, another one where you get crazy tokens for this deck is Reform. Reform is such a cool card. It's got the whole chain of it dies and it becomes this fish, which then becomes this kraken, and it's just a whole chain of giant tokens that you're going to get all the way down the line until that, I believe it's a 9/9 kraken, which is so cool. Especially, we've got some token doubling effects and cloning effects. This can get out of hand, where not only do you go tall because you have a huge 6/6 or a 9/9 that you're giving, the buff to and unblockable, but you can get multiples, and all of a sudden they start splitting into more and more, and stuff can get out of hand. This is a card that can lead to game-winning situations, and if not, just huge swings at people. So probably my favorite creature that I put in here is a card I've been wanting to build as a commander for forever, but I could just never find the right home for. I really couldn't find a good deck for it. Is Stitcher Geralt. Stitcher Geralt is a really cool card. Now basically, pay some mana, tap it, and you mill everybody for 3, and you can pick 2 creatures of those cards milled and get an XX zombie concoction that's essentially just the combination of the power of the 2 creatures you exile. And now this can lead to some great things. You can end up with this just massive zombie token that's just like a 10-10 or 15-15 smacking people, or you exile the Wood Elves and it's a Sakura Tribe Elder and you get a little 2-2. So it's a big variance with this card, but it's a lot of fun. And because it's not super strong, it's one of those cards that can stick around. You can get incremental value from it. Maybe get some cool zombie tokens that swing at people. I just absolutely love the flavor of this card, just piecing different things together. And sometimes you can get a really big token to swing at people with your Temmet. Not to mention, its activated ability obviously can be at instant speed. So you can do this on the end step before your turn. So whatever the token is that you make, you can swing with it that turn. So because of the general lack of haste, obviously you don't have the concordant crossroads of green or the numerous haste enablers of red. You want to be able to do stuff at instant speed before your turn. So that way, if you get a big 10-10 token, it's just sitting there for a full cycle, it's too easy to remove. You want to be able to get that value from it right away. Looking at the enchantments, Followed Footsteps, and Dance of the Many, this is just a theme. There's going to be a lot of cards with similar effects to this where we're just taking a creature, picking whatever the scariest thing is, and getting a token copy of it. And now, a lot of the time playing this deck, it's, especially with the Followed Footsteps, 5 mana, sometimes you're going to be overpaying for value creatures. But late game, that 5 mana could be a bargain because you could be stealing some crazy stuff with this. And with the unblockability, yeah, that 5 mana is not going to seem so bad as you get later in the game. Now, the negative with this is you create it during your upkeep, so it does have to sit around for a little bit. It's not just an immediate benefit you get. But still, it's one of those, we have enough of those redundant effects that we're going to get some stuff to stick around. Probably my favorite enchantment in the deck is just crazy powerful is Duelist Heritage. Duelist Heritage is insane. Essentially, anytime creatures are attacking, you can go ahead and just pick one creature that combat and give it double strike. Not just your creatures, not just your combat. It can be for anyone. This is the type of card I would put in any white deck if I could. It only costs 3 mana. The effect is just insane. If anyone is threatening you at the table, you could just start picking people to give their creatures double strike and just taking out people that you feel like are the biggest threats. And not to mention in this deck, when you give something unblockable, double strike with that little buff, like I said, in general, this commander's not super threatening. Just, okay, I'm going to swing at you for 7 unblockable. But all of a sudden, when you start double striking and all these little incremental effects, that adds up. And I've noticed in some games where people kind of laugh, they see Temmet, they're like, oh, what are you going to do with that? All of a sudden, when you get that 7/7 token with double strike, yeah, people start taking notice, and it's, again, low mana investment, huge benefit because you can use it on everybody's turn. Just amazing, amazing card that I really think should be played more. With the sorceries, there's a few things in here that I feel like I say it every week, and I want to just keep reiterating it. You always want redundant effects and synergies within the stuff that your deck needs already. What that means is within your ramp, within your card draw, within your removal and board wipes, you want to have things that already further your strategy. So you're not just wiping the board, you're wiping the board and putting yourself forward. You're not just destroying something, you're destroying something and furthering your strategy. That's what we want to do. And the board wipes in this deck do exactly that. So I'm going to go through these board wipes because they are phenomenal. First one's Crush of Tentacles. This is a great card. There's a lot of low CMC cards in this deck so we can get that surge cost without having to just dump crazy amounts of mana. But really, you just bounce all non-land permanents and end up with an 8/8 Octopus, which is great. You set everybody back. You get a huge 8/8 token. All of a sudden, next turn, you get to drop your commander. You can be swinging at somebody for 9 unblockable. It's just great because, okay, yes, paying all this mana for an 8/8, you wouldn't do it normally. But the fact that you can wipe the board and get that benefit and be able to utilize it better than most decks can is just perfect. Another one is Hour of Reckoning. This lets you wipe all non-token creatures. And in this deck, where sometimes our board is literally just going to be a bunch of tokens in our commander, this is perfect. Especially because our commander, we don't care if it dies so much. We can embalm it without having to dump a whole bunch of mana. And we don't need our commander to have haste. That effect, it's almost like a weird enchantment for us. So this is just a great card. We can wipe everyone else's creatures, keep our own, and keep our threatening board state. And the last one might be the best, and it's Phyrexian Rebirth. This is, you're wiping the board, hopefully ending up with a crazy huge token. This is the type of token that can potentially take out a player. We've already talked about some double strike effects, some buffs. Yeah, this token can be massive if you wipe the board when it's big enough with this big horror thing that you get, giving it unblockable and a buff. That gets scary, and again, you're furthering your strategy while setting everybody else back. And yeah, other than that, these sorceries just more and more and more and more clone tokens. This deck is packed full of clone tokens because that's really all we want to do. Best thing about all of these is obviously if our commander's going, if our engine's going, we're getting huge unblockable scary creatures every turn. But worst case, very rarely will these be dead cards. At the worst, you can go ahead, play it, copy whatever the best thing available is, get some blockers, and be able to further your strategy. We have so many of them that you never have to be scared of wasting a clone token. Really, if you only had a few of them, then you need to save them, for the game-winning parts where you need that big threatening token. But we have so many, it's great. Literally, if you just need a chump blocker, you can use one. If you just need a small value ramp creature, if someone has a Sakura Tribe Elder or something, you can use it for that too. Early game, it's great. We have tons of them again, so the flexibility of these cards is amazing, especially if you're playing against decks that make up for Azorius' weaknesses. Looking at the instance, shocker, more and more clones. Now, obviously some of these are going to be copying our own things. And there's a variety of ways we can use this. Now, the stuff that copies our own stuff, one, we can copy the tokens that we already stole from people. So you know what? If we make a token copy, we can just make another one. And that's the ideal way to use it, but we have a few cards that do take advantage of it. I didn't mention it in the creatures, but we are running Frost Titan and Sun Titan and different cards like that where, worst case, if we make clones of those, we still get value ourselves, but again, we're just loading clone tokens, whether we're cloning our own things, other people's things. We just need to make whatever we have, we need to make a token so our commander can take advantage of it. But by far my favorite instant in this deck, and it's a card that it's very situational, but it's one of my favorite cards. It's Grip of Phyresis. This is another card that I've wanted to put this in a deck for so long. And just, obviously it says the word Phyresis in it, so like, why wouldn't I want it? It's got Phyrexia. Obviously I love it. With Grip of Phyresis, you steal someone's equipment and you attach a germ to it. Now, germ tokens, as I'm going to get into in a minute, are phenomenal in this deck. Someone's got a Sword of Feast and Famine out, well now you have the Sword of Feast and Famine, and you have a token attached to it to immediately give unblockable and get those combat damage triggers. So if you got anyone in your playgroup playing Voltron or those fancy expensive swords, well now you're playing those fancy expensive swords, and it is awesome. This card is amazing, and at the worst, so many decks are running Swiftfoot Boots. So many decks are running Lightning Greaves and different equipments that, we might be able to use that and just get a little bit of value off of it. Now, obviously, things like boots, it's not going to buff it, so that germ's just going to die, but we don't care that much. We can go ahead and just put those boots onto another creature and get the value. But in those circumstances where someone is dropping a Sword of Feast and Famine, Fire and Ice, whatever it is, or someone drops a Hammer and Nizan or something crazy, oh my gosh, does it feel great to go ahead and break this out. Get it with the germ token for 3 mana at instant speed. Obviously very situational, but the amount of fun I've had with this card is it's completely worth a deck slot and super necessary to the deck. Now the artifacts, obviously we're in Azorius, we gotta ramp a lot in our artifacts, that's just inevitable. But these artifacts are really, to me, the all-stars of the deck. This is what's gonna get engines going, what's gonna allow us to stay in games. We want a lot of incremental value with our creatures, being able to get in for those little chunks of combat damage over and over again. I've already mentioned germs, and we really want germ token creators, so Scytheclaw and Bone Horde. These cards are amazing in this deck. Bone Horde, we can get late game a massive token and do some damage. It's Scytheclaw, taking somebody's having their life just out of nowhere with this card is crazy, not to mention you get the germ from it, which is, Scytheclaw is one of the MVPs. Now, Batterskull is another great card. I didn't put it in the deck just because I was trying to build kind of a budget-friendly deck with this. I didn't feel like dropping so much money on a Batterskull, but if you have a Batterskull, put it in there. That actually might be the best germ token generating equipment there is. And then in addition, obviously these are things that allow us to get tokens and get in, but we want things that just directly benefit from having combat damage get in. So stuff like Mask of Memory is phenomenal. Lots of card draw being able to sift through our deck. Rogue's Gloves does something similar to where we can keep drawing cards. This isn't a combat damage trigger, but Sword of the Animist is phenomenal when our creature's just unblockable. So we can just keep swinging in and ramping, and we don't even have to keep paying re-equip costs because we're just getting in for free. So that is great too. Even something like a Dowsing Dagger, which is just, you can guarantee to get in, flip it, and ramp like crazy because you get that Gilded Lotus land essentially. These equipments and everything are the key to making this deck run. essentially you just get so much value over the course of the game that this is what allows your deck just to go. You get the cards right, you get the ramp, you get all these little triggers, and this is essentially the meat and potatoes to allow everything else to get going. So you can basically slot whichever ones you want in here, but yeah, these are, when you're playing, when you draw that Mask of Memory turn 1, or you draw that Sword of the Animus, nothing feels better, because you know you're in a situation where you can get yourself set up for that long game, and especially in Azorius, you need kind of those incremental value effects in your equipment like that. But with these artifacts, I can't go over these without saying the most important one, and it's Mimic Vat. Mimic Vat is very similar to what I talked about with Fairy Artisans, where essentially people are playing cards and they got to be paying attention because they don't know what is going to allow you to steal it with Mimic Vat and just create a big scary token. You can activate it on your turn because it's going to have haste. It is a phenomenal effect, and whereas most of these artifacts, I've been talking about value and incremental value and getting in, and even with the Scythe Claw, it's a bigger effect. This is just an end the game type effect, because if someone drops a certain scary creature, you can get a creature token with haste, make it unblockable. Yeah, Mimic Vat creates some crazy things in end games. Looking at the lands, nothing too crazy in here, a basic Azorius mana base, but there are 2 cards that I think do really well in the deck. One is Cathedral of War. Just having it out on the battlefield gives your creatures exalted, so if they attack alone, they get +1. And the majority of the time, your creatures are attacking alone. So this is great, because this means, okay, you're getting the +1 from your commander, you're automatically getting another +1. Some of the damage doubling effects, and some of just the big creatures we have already. Just having +2/+2 from this in your commander right away can make a difference, and it's just thrown on a land. It's awesome. And the second one is a land I've never got a chance to play, because I never play white, and it's Core Haven. Core Haven is a weird version of Maze of Ith, and it's worse because it costs mana, but it's also better in some ways. So what Core Haven does is, while Maze of Ith untaps something or removes it from combat, this just prevents all damage it would deal. So if someone attacks you and you Core Haven their creature, it's still tapped, it's still attacking. So you can block it, not take any damage and still kill it, or you can just let it be tapped so you can swing back. There might be situations where, for whatever reason, if you don't have access to your commander or anything that makes it unblockable, someone swings at you, you can stop the damage, let it be tapped, and go back for the crackback. So Core Haven is just a phenomenal card in this deck, and it's just a really cool card in general. With all that being said, how are we about to win the game with this deck? It is the game-winning step. How are we about to do this? So there are a few different ways that I found to be the best and the most fun for me to win the game. Like I said before, Temmet isn't the most powerful commander. It's going to be the type of thing where you're trying to get value throughout the game, hope you can steal the perfect creature, and have a crazy turn. Speaking of crazy turns, the first way to win the game creates the craziest of these turns, and it's Rite of Replication. Rite of Replication is just insane because of what you can steal. You make a whole bunch of token copies of whatever creature, because who's not going to play a kick? And you're going to create all these copies, and it's one of those cards that a lot of the time, if you play this kick and no one has a board wipe or an answer, you can just win the game on the next turn. Not to mention that we get the value of all these being tokens. So maybe we just create a bunch of stuff, swing out and win. But on top of that, we're guaranteed to be able to give something unblockable and get in regardless of what other board states are going because of our commander. This is an explosive card. In a lot of decks, this can serve as a win con. It's just so cool that in this deck, not only is it the regular type of win con, but we get that extra value because of how much we care about stuff being tokens. And the next way to win the game, obviously my favorite, it's a weekly tradition. It's Infect. Let's take a trip down to Phyrexia and see what's going on this weekend. Because we're in Azorius, it's limited, so we got to go with Grafted Exoskeleton. Grafted Exoskeleton is terrifying in this deck. Do not play this card out until you are ready to kill someone, because unblockability is already expected. You're in Azorius, people might be like, oh, you can swing in, you can do this, you can do that. The second they see Infect, if they are at all good at threat assessment, they will be trying to kill you and make sure you are out of that game. They don't want to see Infect and unblockability, because that gets terrifying. That is target player loses the game territory, and that's what Grafted Exoskeleton can do. We have plenty of tokens that are 8/8s at minimum, and this gives it +2/+2. Really, we only need a 7/7 token because our commander is giving it +1 as well, and we have tons of ways to get tokens that are that big. So again, this can literally just play it, target player's dead. This is a phenomenal way, and in a deck like this, where again, it is underpowered, it is a casual deck, you need some win cons like this that are going to make up for the fact that in most games, swinging with 7/7s and 8/8s, even if they're unblockable, you're not going to win. You might be able to do some damage to somebody, but very rarely is that just going to take the whole table out with someone having an answer. This is the type of card that can kind of even the playing field and get you in for a more explosive win in the deck. All right, so that's going to do it for this week's Deck Tech. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. There's several ways. I kind of went through a lot of iterations, to be honest, with Temmet. I started in more of a controlling build. I realized I didn't like that. I went more heavy Voltron. I did a lot of things, but I realized, and kind of been playing it, the most fun way to do it for me was just go all in on a bunch of token producers and see what happens. And it's been a blast to play. You can definitely make it meaner. This is the type of deck where if you want all of the control strat, you can run tons of counter spells. You can run tons of different, like, the propaganda type effects of not letting one attack. You can keep throwing some stacksy elements. But with a more casual commander like this, I recommend playing it just all out tokens, all out value, and have a good time. It's a really, really cool commander, and it's something I don't think I've ever played against a Temmet deck before. So it was something I hadn't seen, but I've had a blast. If you ever thought about Temmet, give him a chance. A lot more fun than I expected, and just a very different take on tokens. But yes, lots of content coming, plenty of deck doctors coming up. Some of those will be coming up shortly. And the more and more these little spoilers are coming about Commander stuff next year, the more insanely excited I get. There's going to be some awesome Commanders, awesome Commander cards. It's going to be a brewer's dream next year. We won't be dreaming much because we won't be sleeping at all because there's so many Commander cards coming up. But it's going to be crazy. I can't wait. So tons of content coming up. As always, thank you so much to all the patrons out there. We love y'all so, so much. That's why we do all these deck doctors. Come in some crazy ones. I've had so much fun with them, so definitely keep them coming. But until then, I will see y'all next time.